Hello. You know, people get really angry over whether or not you should use the Oxford comma. Now, as I'm sure you know, the Oxford comma, or serial comma as it's also known, appears after the penultimate item in a list of 3 or more things, right before the and or. And some people say you should always have an Oxford comma, or your list won't make any sense. And other people say you should never use an Oxford comma, you don't need them. People can distinguish between different things on a list, give them some credit. Now look, to me this is pretty simple, okay? The purpose of communication is to transmit a thought from one brain to another. The purpose of language is to apply meaning to that thought, so we understand each other. And the purpose of grammar and punctuation are to convey that thought clearly and correctly, so there's no confusion about what's being said, right? So you use the Oxford comma when not doing so would create the potential for confusion or a lack of clarity in what you're saying. And sure, there are plenty of cases in which the absence of an Oxford comma could cause confusion. Like any other piece of punctuation, you use it when the situation calls for it. But there are plenty of occasions in which an Oxford comma is simply not needed, and I don't see why we have to get all bent out of shape when it's not there. Let's say I write you a letter, and in it I say that my 3 favourite animals are dogs, squirrels and giraffes, and I don't use an Oxford comma. Are you going to write back to me and say, oh, I was really confused because you said you were going to tell me your 3 favourite animals, but you only told me 2, a dog and a squirrel and giraffe? No, you're not going to do that, because firstly, you know how to count to 3, and secondly, you know that a squirrel and giraffe is not an animal. There's no such thing as a squirraffe, and if there was, I'd call it a squirraffe. I wouldn't say a squirrel and giraffe, because that's 2 separate things. And I think this makes sense to most people, but even common sense style guides say you should be consistent. Use the Oxford comma throughout a piece of writing or not at all. You should always use it or you should never use it. And generally, we should be suspicious when people throw around words like always and never. Now notice I didn't say we should always be suspicious, because then I'd be telling you to be suspicious of me, and I'm here to help. Because always and never reflect the kind of inflexibility that causes problems like this one with the Oxford comma, and more serious ones than that. Now, of course, there are occasions in which always and never make sense. You should always keep breathing if you want to stay alive. You should never be cruel for the sake of it. This is basic stuff. But when people say always or never, your critical alarm bells should go off, and you should just pay a little bit more attention to what's coming next, just to make sure it passes muster. So forget Oxford commas. Let's just stop being so dogmatic about whether things should always happen or should never happen. Because let's face it, life is a case-by-case basis. Every day is a case full of lots of little sub-cases, and you deal with each one as it comes up with your critical faculties engaged and with the best information you have at the time. This has been Rants from a Chaise Longue. Please like and subscribe, share, comment, engage, I believe is the popular term. Anyway, thanks for watching.